is already weak. Right now it seems to be getting worse and worse. Hearing what senior sister said, Somin was startled and frightened. At home right now, Han Swang is resting on the bed. Next to her is Tan Yen, who is extremely worried. Tan Yen sobbed and cried. Han Swang, try your best, Somin is coming soon. Even though Han Swang is weak, he still tries to reassure, don't cry anymore. I just have a little illness, I can't die. Suddenly, a voice behind rang out. You definitely won't die. Tan Yen turned around and saw that Somin and Nam Lin had arrived. Nam Lin spoke up. This kid is here, Somin called out worriedly. That's senior sister. Han Swang was helped by Tan Yen to sit up. She smiled and said, quickly invite junior brother over. It seems that 6th senior sister still cares about me very much. Nam Lin replied coldly. I wish I could let you die sooner. Somin quickly approached to check Han Swang's pulse. Han Swang still tried to reassure his junior brother. Little junior brother, my illness is not a problem. Before he finished speaking, Somin interrupted. He said, I have moderation, sister, relax, otherwise the pulse will be wrong. Somin continued to check his pulse. It was only his vitality. His heart was damaged, and his physical condition was extremely cold. Somin finished with one sentence. The illness is very serious. These words made Kai Han Yen worried. He quickly asked his 7th sister. It wasn't that serious 2 days ago. What happened? Han Swang didn't say anything but just secretly looked at Nam Lin. Seeing that Han Swang did not dare to speak, Tan Yen spoke. Han Swang, she wants to help you. But before he could finish speaking, Han Swang stopped Tan Yen from speaking. Somin quickly explained. If we don't know the cause of the disease, we have no way to diagnose it accurately. Nam Lin then spoke. Because your 7th senior sister kneels before me. Somin was surprised and asked loudly. Kneel? Why? Nam Lin gently explained. Her heart is higher than the sky. Humbling herself to beg others feels even more unpleasant than being killed. But this time, because she wanted to save you, she was able to hold back. I really didn't expect it. After receiving the answer from senior sister, Somin thought to herself, so it's because of me. Senior sister 7 doesn't know martial arts, so she guesses that martial arts are also affected by physical condition. The only person who can really help me is senior sister 6. No wonder that day, Sister Luke also said that she owed the favor she saved me to that sister. After understanding the problem, Somin slowly walked to Han Swang and said, I already have the treatment method. But before that, I want to ask, 7th senior sister, is it necessary for you to give up your dignity for a junior brother you've only met a few times? Hearing Somin's question, Han Swang replied, You are wrong. We have met many times. Then she began to recount. When I met you, you were very young, basically can't remember. At that time, her great master told her, Han Swang, your 8th sister's future destiny is chaotic and unclear. Take good care of it. As a billion you must shoulder this responsibility. Han Swang immediately obeyed his master. Returning to the present, Han Swang continued. I am a sister, bowing for my younger brother is not difficult. Somin heard the words from the bottom of his sister's heart, and was moved to exclaim. Sister, the memories I have are in the mountains. I have no father or mother, only 7 masters. 7 masters in my memory, only when I went down the mountain, except for my master, I have never experienced the feeling of having relatives. Then he confessed. But today I have a sister. Kai Han Yen smiled when he heard Somin say that. Somin took a deep breath to feel the love his family had just received. Then he turned to instruct the 2 people behind him. Please come back, senior sister Luke and sister Tan. I have to treat senior sister 7. Senior sister Luke immediately pulled Tan Yen out of the room. As she turned to leave, Tan Yen asked herself, what treatment method do you still need to avoid? After both of them left the room, Somin seriously instructed. I must monitor the blood in your body and adjust your mood. Please, senior sister 7, be honest with me. Hearing that, Han Swang looked puzzled. Open your heart honestly, is that what you mean? Somin seriously asked. Senior sister 7, do you need me to help you undress? Han Swang was immediately confused by his junior brother's suggestion. She hesitantly replied, I did it myself. At this time, Han Swang began to take off her clothes. Her face turned red, her big soul covered by the author's hand, making people feel heartbroken. Somin immediately turned away so Han Swang could take off his clothes. Outside at this time, Nam Lin was drinking water with Tan Yen. Nam Lin asked, what is your relationship with Han Swang? Tan Yen immediately replied, Somin asked me to treat Han Swang's extremely cold physical condition. Hearing that, Nam Lin wondered, are you physically positive? Tan Yen immediately nodded in confirmation. Immediately, Nam Lin entered a confused state. She drank water, but in her heart she was wondering, physically like a yang? I searched for more than 10 years, thousands of people went in and out of the martial arts hall, but I couldn't find a single person. Yet, less than a month after the little junior brother came down the mountain, he was able to find someone for Han Swang. His luck is indeed as extraordinary as his master said. Then she thoughtfully thought about herself. Since Han Swang accidentally disturbed my dantian, for nearly 5 years my martial arts cultivation has not changed at all. I have been stuck in this true atmosphere for many years. She looked intently at the glass of water, thinking to herself that perhaps So-min was the person who could change her destiny. Suddenly, Han Swang's cry rang out from inside the room, startling both Nam Lin and Tan Yen. Immediately, both ran into the room to see what happened. What caught their eyes at this moment was So-min using needles to treat a completely stripped Han Swang. All four people looked at each other dumbfounded, not knowing what to say. Immediately, Tan Yen and Nam Lin quickly apologized and disappeared from the room. Han Swang put her face down on the pillow and said embarrassedly, "I'm so embarrassed. It was a bit painful just now, I couldn't stand it." So-min immediately replied, "It's very normal. This acupuncture point, even if someone has high martial arts skills, still hurts to the point of making a sound." So-min suddenly had a question. "Actually, I don't quite understand something." Han Yen immediately asked. "What's going on?" he asked Han Swang. "Why did Sixth Senior Sister have to force you to kneel down and beg before coming to save me?" Han Swang lifted her hair and replied, "It's a very long story." Then Han Swang began to recount. "She used to be like me, a martial arts genius, but after entering the True Air realm, for a long time, she did not have any breakthrough. At that time we were all in Zhangchao. I saw her suffering so much and wanted to help. The Dharma taught by Master 7 can improve martial arts energy gathering in the Dantian, so I used this method to help her stimulate the Dantian. A stream of magical energy passed into Nam Lin's body. She tried to absorb it, but something unfortunate happened. Nam Lin vomited blood immediately afterward. Perhaps because he was not proficient in learning the art and was too confident, Han Swang not only failed but was even affected by that technique, affecting Nam Lin's Dantian. That's why since then, many years have passed, Nam Lin's martial arts have not changed at all," Han Swang said sadly. "It was I who harmed your sixth sister. I feel sorry for her. That's why for many years, even though we were both in Zhangchao, I didn't have the face to go see her. This time, it's because you're in danger that I..." After hearing this, So-min immediately wondered, Master 7 also taught me that technique. Logically speaking, there is no way to trigger it, nor would it create such serious consequences, right? Han Swang mused. "I don't know why. Maybe it's because of my extremely cold constitution." So-min also had his own thoughts. Not right. Even though the extremely cold physical condition would affect the caster, at that time Senior Sister 7 was still young and her physical condition could not affect her to such an extent. After So-min finished inserting the last needle, he told Han Swang, "Senior Sister 7, my needle is finished. Lie here quietly for a moment, I'll come see Senior Sister 6. He stood up and said, "Maybe there is a reverse method." Hearing that, Han Swang happily asked, "Really?" So-min then went out. Seeing this, Tan Yen immediately asked, "Is Han Swang okay?" So-min immediately replied, She needs to rest now." He turned to Nam Lin and said, "Sister Luke, can I check your pulse?" Nam Lin was surprised. "Me?" So-min sat down and replied, "Yes. I have already heard what Senior Sister 7 said about your story. I want to try and see if I can help you." Hearing that, Nam Lin looked happy. "Really?" So-min carefully checked Nam Lin's pulse. Nam Lin sat still while his younger brother took his pulse and said, "My Dantian has been distorted for many years. Even the masters have no way." So-min was startled when he heard Dan Dian being distorted. "But you still have to check your pulse first." So-min felt his pulse and thought thoughtfully, "It seems that this time I went down the mountain, the 7 masters also expected me to be able to solve the troubles for the sisters." After checking his pulse for a while, So-min realized that his spiritual energy was too pure. Compared to before, the spiritual energy Han Swang transmitted into his body was much hotter. Then So-min's eyes opened wide as if he had just realized something. He felt like there was something in Senior Sister Luke's Dantian. "Looks like there's a poisonous insect hiding inside." Nam Lin also felt something. She cried out in pain, causing Tan Yen beside her to ask worriedly, "Miss Nam, are you okay?" So-min also understood the problem. He frowned and said, "So that's it?" Nam Lin immediately asked, "Little brother, what's going on? Why do I feel such intense pain?" So-min stood up and replied, "Senior Sister Luke, you may have mistakenly blamed Senior Sister 7, So-min asserted. "Your Dan Dian was injured, causing you to not be able to improve your cultivation for many years. It was not caused by Senior Sister 7, Nam Lin worriedly asked. "So what is the reason?" So-min replied firmly. "Someone cast a spell on you. Furthermore, he also took action when you were unprepared, opening the Dantian for Senior Sister 7 to assist." Nam Lin exclaimed in shock. "Spell? Who would poison me like that?" So-min thoughtfully replied. "For now, I still don't know. I can only feel that the spell in your body is very strong. After so many years, it has taken root in your Dantian." Nam Lin cried out in panic. "Growing roots?" So-min frowned and replied, "Yes. Furthermore, at most 2 years this spell will completely devour Senior Sister Luke's cultivation base. At that time, you will be completely crippled and live like a cripple." Tan Yen angrily shouted, "Who is so cruel? I heard Han Swang talk about this. At that time you were only 16 or 17 years old. Was it necessary to poison little girls? Like that? So-min thought for a moment and then replied. I guess I can be your master's opponent. The 7 masters roamed the world during their youth. In each field they reached the realm of transformation. They are all people who have achieved sainthood. Of course there will be people who are jealous. So-min continued to explain. Before I went down the mountain, the 7 masters told me that their enemies were lined up from Nam Tien Man to the east of Bang Lai. Therefore, the explanation of the leaves for that Saint Tong is a very difficult matter. Nam Lin frowned and replied. If it's true, then those enemies didn't fight back against their masters, so they poisoned us to take revenge on them. How cruel, but it's okay, So-min has a way. He reassured his sister. But there is still a way. Just use special healing herbs to slowly reduce the impact. This spell can be lifted. Saying that, So-min sighed. He thought to himself. If my seal can be opened a few more levels, I can use true energy to attack my sister. But my current ability is limited. Hearing some hope, Nam Lin asked again. Is there really a way? What herbs are needed? So-min immediately replied. Herbs have some difficulties and are necessary. But before he could finish speaking, from behind, Han Swang hurriedly ran out to announce. Not good. Quickly take me to the company. Seeing Han Swang so impatient, So-min waved his hand to stop her and said, Sister 7, your current body cannot work, you need to rest. Han Swang shouted loudly and worriedly. Someone came to my company to cause trouble. They took advantage of the time I wasn't there to break HSL. Meanwhile, at Han Swang's HSL company, 2 flashily dressed thugs were questioning company employees. Who is the manager? Seeing that the female employee did not answer but only trembled in fear, the ringleader said. Your HSL borrowed 2,000 from us. Now we have to pay it back. The female employee trembled and replied. I don't know about this. Can I help you contact the company's finance department? Without letting the staff call, the leader waved his junior over and ordered. Looks like I can't get the money today. We brothers will destroy it. Following orders, his subordinates immediately destroyed furniture in the company's main lobby. Suddenly, a loud voice behind them shouted for them to stop. That's Han Swang. She has arrived. Followed by Tan Yen and So-min, the thug gave a sarcastic smile and said, Oh, President Kai, do you still dare to come? Ignoring Mr. Kai's presence, he continued to order his juniors. Brothers, destroy it. Let her see with her own eyes what happens when borrowing money and not paying back. Ha! Han Swang immediately shouted. Do-ho, stop! Even though she was in pain, Han Swang still tried to stop them. So-min rushed out to block in front of his sister and said, 7th sister, don't waste words on them. Leave it to me. Then he quickly threw a punch. One more permission. Fast as lightning, quickly defeating several of Do-ho's juniors. After defeating several of his juniors, So-min suddenly realized that although their blocking movements were very weak, they looked very familiar, very similar to the martial arts taught by the 6th master. Do-ho clenched his hands and prepared to fight. He said to So-min, This bodyguard of yours is fine. I'm here to fight you. He raised his voice to challenge So-min. If you defeat me, you'll be gone today. So-min scratched his ear and asked again. Are you sure? Do-ho clenched his fists in triumph. Of course. But if you lose, this debt must be paid twice. As he spoke, he was secretly arrogant. I am the top martial arts disciple in Zhangchao. I just saw that kid make a move. It was just a little faster, no big deal. So-min scratched his head and provocatively replied. Come. Tell me, how should we fight? Do-ho immediately rushed forward and shouted. Let's start now. He attacked directly at the acupuncture point under So-min's armpit. Not dying but seriously injured, So-min said in surprise. Sneak attack? You're still too slow. Immediately, So-min punched Do-ho in the face with overwhelming speed. He was hit and immediately bled and trembled backwards. Immediately he shouted a warning. Wait for me. I'll call the master. So-min shyly scratched his head and asked. Do you still have a master? Then he walked closer to see who he was calling. Do-ho dialed the phone and said. Of course. She is the owner of the leading martial arts hall in Zhangchao. You are dead. After that, he called his master crying. Master, please help me. There is someone here who wants to kill me. On this end of the line, a woman replied. I know. It turned out that his master was 6th sister Nam Lin. She calmly hung up on Do-ho. Nam Lin had been following Han Swang and immediately said to her. Han Swang, I have something to do, go first. You stay here. Seeing his master, Do-ho was startled and asked. Master, why are you here? So-min also wondered in surprise. Is senior sister Luke his master? Seeing that the vandal was his student, Nam Lin frowned and asked. Why is it you? She asked with a serious face. Aren't you practicing boxing today at the martial arts hall? Do-ho confusedly replied. Aren't you just going out for a meal? Nam Lin angrily shouted. Eat. Do you know whose company you are destroying? The CEO of this company is my junior sister. Do-ho was shocked at this time. He was startled. Mr. Kai is your junior sister? Nam Lin continued to say. At first, you were hunted and killed when you practiced black magic. If I hadn't taken action, you would have died long ago. Today you attacked my junior sister again. Do you want to return the favor with resentment? Du-ho waved his hand and shook his head. No. I really don't know the relationship between you and Mr. Kentucky. I'm simply taking money for others. It's the president of YQ Company next to me who told me next. After hearing this, Namlin calmed down. She nodded and said, "That's fine." Then Namlin turned to Han Swang and So-min. Han Swang, little junior brother, this time it was my disciple who did wrong. The discipline was not strict. It is also the fault of a teacher like me. I hope everyone forgive. Hearing his master say that, Du-ho turned to look at So-min and thought, that kid is his master's junior brother. I thought he was Mr. Kai's bodyguard. Then he trembled when he thought he had just attacked his uncle. This time it's over. Han Swang waved her hand and said, "It's okay. YQ Company always wants to destroy my HSL. They are long-standing brands in the makeup industry in Zhangchao. They have long been unfavorable to us." Then Han Swang continued solemnly. "This time the attack was also within my expectations. We have to solve the problem directly with them." So-min turned to ask Namlin. "Sister Luke, are these people really your disciples?" Hearing So-min's sarcastic question, Du-ho's group behind him trembled because they felt incompetent. Namlin then explained. "Yes. After going down the mountain, I opened a small martial arts studio in Zhangchao. It's just that the master did not agree to open the shop in the name of that saint sect. Haven't come back for 2 days, yet it's turned into chaos like this." Then she sternly taught Du-ho and the others. "Wait until we get back to the dojo. I will deal with you kids." These words made Du-ho's group become tense. Hearing what the sixth sister said, So-min seemed excited to visit Namlin's martial arts studio. Han Swang also continued. "I haven't contacted senior sister Nam for a long time. I also want to come to where you live to see what it's like." Namlin sighed and agreed. "Okay. Then everyone let's go." Then she turned and shouted at the students. "You all go home together. Explain today's matter clearly to me." The Du-ho group did not dare to cough. They only trembled and obeyed. Meanwhile at YQ Group, HSL's rival, a cup was thrown to the ground and shattered, accompanied by a loud shout. "What? Failed? A bunch of trash." The person who just yelled at his subordinates was Trin Bean, the general manager of YQ Group. She shouted loudly into the phone. "Just make them come and make trouble and record the video. It's such a simple thing, but it can't be done." The subordinate quickly explained on the phone. "Boss. Not only that, that guy named Du also turned his back and told all about the person who bribed him." Trin Bean was extremely angry when he heard such news. She yelled at the 3 subordinates standing in front. "It's all because of your good intentions. Now you've beaten the snake to the grass to HSL over there," a handsome-looking subordinate reassured. "Sister Trin, don't talk too quickly. This is not that serious yet. I have a way to save it." Trin Bean frowned and asked. "What way?" The subordinate then gave a devilish smile and replied. "Before this gets bigger, let's solve the root of the problem." He smiled cunningly and told his plan. HSL has suffered very heavy losses due to internal fighting. Now there is only one person left, half-dead Kai Han Swang. That makes Kai Han Swang disappear from this world. All problems will naturally be solved. Photo Trin Bean wondered. "Murder? What should the police do if they investigate?" The junior immediately approached Trin Bean. He caressed Trin Bean's face and replied. "We have a way to deal with her. For example, the car lost its brakes and accidentally hit Kai Han Swang." Then he raised Trin Bean's head and continued. "Even if we investigate, it's just a traffic incident." Trin Bean also smiled cunningly and replied. "Then it's thanks to you. Indeed, you are my best heart." At the same time, So-min's group arrived at the gate of Namlin's dojo, Namti Dojo. So-min looked at the large martial arts hall and was stunned. Is this the small martial arts hall that senior sister Luke talked about? How small is this place? Han Swang also said. "This size can be said to be number 1 or 2 in Zhangchao, which is not too much, right?" Du-ho's face was still swollen, so he leaned closer to So-min and said, "Uncle is right. Our martial arts school is the top in Zhangchao. There were many people around who were my master's disciples." Namlin shouted sternly. "Shut up!" Making Du-ho speechless. She turned around and said, "Master So-min's martial arts are no worse than mine. He can also build this martial arts hall." So-min looked down at his hand and thought to himself, "Senior sister Luke is currently in the true atmosphere. After I solve the seal, I can reach the fullness of true energy, a little stronger and more delicate than her." But then he turned pale when he realized that he hadn't even established a hair of the Seven Saints sect. Namlin interrupted So-min's thoughts with an excited invitation. "Don't stand here stupidly anymore. I'll take everyone inside to see." Namlin opened the door and invited everyone in. Inside, there are many Namlin disciples practicing hard. Seeing her return, the disciples immediately turned to greet their master. They walked up together, extremely respectful. Namlin just gently nodded. Seeing Namlin's majesty, Tan Yan was impressed. Miss Nam is so majestic. Yet there are so many disciples. So-min was jealous and said, I will also have it in the future. Suddenly, from behind, someone kicked in the door and shouted loudly. Nam Lin, you're finally back, he shouted loudly. Taking over my business. I have no choice but to smash this martial arts studio of yours today, So-min angrily shouted back. Who is that? How dare you kick in someone else's door? It was a white-haired young man. He shouted. Get out. You have no right to talk to me. Then he turned and shouted at Nam Lin. Nam, I want to trample your martial arts studio today. This arrogant name is Trin Shin-nia. He holds a 6th-degree black belt in Taekwondo, Nam Lin calmly replied. Trin Shin-nia, when did I rob you of your resources? I voluntarily chose Chinese martial arts, not your Taekwondo. Trin Shin-nia was still arrogant. Originally, the students in this area are all at my temple. Now they all run to you, you still dare to argue. Du Ho stood up, pointed his finger and shouted at him. Obviously you have no ability to teach students at all. That's why they transferred it to my master. You just want to make money, and you blame my master. What a loss of face. Whoever made this mistake caused Du Ho to be punched in the face by Trin Shin-nia. He shouted. Who are you to be worthy of raising your voice in front of me? Being punched again on the right cheek, Du Ho hugged his face in pain. After beating Nam Lin's disciple, he continued to provoke her. Nam Lin, why don't you speak up? Don't you dare to fight? Shin-nia spoke with disdain. If you don't dare to fight, then get out of here. Then he smiled smugly. The martial arts you teach are just a formality. Now is the era of Taekwondo. Nam Lin didn't say anything. She thought to herself. This guy oppresses people too much. Seeing Nam Lin still standing still without saying anything, Trin Shin-nia smiled cunningly and thought. Nam Lin, I know you and I have the same abilities, but this time I invited a professor from Korea to personally teach. The person he invited was named Park In-hee, an 8th-degree black belt in Taekwondo. Shin-nia's plan is for him and Nam Lin to fight to a draw, then his school will paralyze Nam Lin's school on the spot, in front of all the students. At that time, the title of Martial Arts School No. 1 in Zhangchao will belong to his martial arts school. Nam Lin slowly stepped forward to accept the challenge. If you want to fight, then I will fight. Someone like you. But So-min quickly stopped Nam Lin. He said, what is the need for my sister to take action? Seeing So-min say that, Nam Lin asked. This person, with a 6th-degree black belt, is no worse than me. Can junior brother deal with it? So-min confidently replied. Of course it's no problem. Seeing Trin Shin-nia smile mysteriously, So-min told Nam Lin. This laughing expression is a bit scary. I'm afraid there is a trap. Let me fight this battle. Seeing that the stranger dared to stand up and accept the challenge, Shin-nia thought to himself. Where did this kid come from? Do you want to ruin my plan? He shouted. What kind of dog or cat is this? Get out of here, So-min gently introduced. Here, So-min is senior sister Nam's fellow disciple. I just need to beat you. Then he gave a contemptuous smile to annoy Shin-nia. Or are you so afraid of your Taekwondo or something that I can't even beat you? So why are you looking for my sister? Trin Shin-nia was angry when he heard these provocative words. He used his power to radiate a murderous aura. Then he waved his hand and pointed at So-min and said, I will smash your head. So-min saw this guy's murderous aura and immediately instructed everyone behind him. The way he raises his hand is the position that exerts the greatest power in a martial art. It seems that he really has some skill. Everyone please step back a bit. Avoid being hurt by him. Tan Yen laughed and said, Ha! Did you expect him to be kicked away? So-min turned back and smiled. That's right. Being despised like that, Trin Shin-nia angrily rushed forward. He shouted, You rotten boy! When he was close to So-min, he threw a spinning kick filled with red murderous aura and shouted, Didn't your master teach you not to look east and west when competing? Seeing Shin-nia make such a move, his disciple shouted loudly. Quickly see! That is the master's killer move! Bring all your weight to your legs, promoting maximum strength. This sure kill move is called Nguyen-hyu. Regardless of filial piety, or what kind of atom it is, So-min just needs to raise his hand to gently block his kick. He gave a contemptuous smile. This smile made Shin-nia extremely angry. So-min held Shin-nia's ankle tightly and told him, I'm so sorry. Our masters really haven't taught it yet. After all, it's just dealing with new people, so there's no need to be so focused. When it was So-min's turn, he smiled and said, Then it's my turn. The smile exuded terrifying power, making Shin-nia somewhat afraid. Then So-min threw a kick straight into Shin-nia's stomach. The kick with green gas caused Trin Shin-nia to fly far away and stick to the wall. Tan Yen happily shouted, So-min, you really keep your word. If you say you will fly away, you will fly away. Shin-nia flew over and stuck to the base of the pillar. He collapsed, his body trembling. The disciples quickly ran over and asked, Master, are you okay? Shin-nia shouted at the disciples. Get away! Does this bit of skill still want to hurt me? He slowly stood up, looking very strong. But actually in his heart he was thinking, Mom, this kid's strength is so great. My bones almost broke 2 joints, but with so many people watching, he couldn't lose face. Otherwise, his sex reputation will be ruined. So Min saw him like that and shouted, "You can still stand up. Then you are also very strong." Trin Chin Nia took a defensive stance. He warned, "Boy, stop being so exaggerated. I wasn't prepared well just now. With the next kick, I will blow your brains out." So Min immediately responded, "If that's the case, I'll give you a chance. I'll only use one hand." Being despised like that, Chin Nia was extremely angry. He used all his anger to bounce into the air. Then he rushed towards So Min, intending to throw another kick stronger than the previous one. He shouted loudly, "I'll kill you!" So Min looked at his kick and smiled. He thought to himself, even though his power has reached the true state, it's a pity it hasn't been completed yet. Just like So Min said, you only need one hand. He threw a punch to block Chin Nia's kick. Seeing that So Min only used one punch, Trin Chin Nia chuckled. "You idiot. Use your hands to fight hard with my legs. I went through countless challenges to reach a 6th-degree black belt." Contrary to Trin Chin Nia's thoughts, his leg collided with So Min's punch and was broken. His expression now looked extremely scared. Chin Nia had to sit down and hug his leg in pain from So Min's kick. He writhed, hugged his legs and screamed, "My legs!" The disciples were surprised. The master was defeated by a young man with only one hand. "Is Taekwondo okay?" Looking at Trin Chin Nia writhing on the ground, So Min waved his hand and said, "It seems you really don't have the qualifications to be my senior sister Luke's opponent." "Senior sister Luke, let's see the guests off." Nam Lin immediately ordered his disciples to throw those people out. Du Ho has a chance to take revenge. He approached Chin Nia and said, "You hit me just now. Now I can return it to you." Du Ho smiled mischievously. "Let me hit you in the face." But before he could be satisfied for long, Du Ho was suddenly hit in the face by another kick, sending him flying away. Du Ho shouted in pain, "Why is it always me who gets hurt?" At this time, an old man appeared. "He is Park Chung-hee." So Min looked at the old man in front of him and was a bit startled. Trin Chin Nia saw the old man calling him master. Park Chung-hee raised his voice. "My Chinese is not very good, but if you attack my people, I will teach you again." As he spoke, he rushed forward with a murderous aura stronger than Trin Chin Nia. So Min felt the pressure from this old man. He thought to himself, the atmosphere is so strong. This person must be at least 2 levels higher than Justice. Nam Lin from behind stepped forward and patted So Min's shoulder. "Senior brother, move away. This guy is aiming at me." Then she explained, he was Chin Nia's master, the founder of Korean Taekwondo named Park Chung-hee. Unexpectedly, he also went to China. Hearing Nam Lin say that, Park Chung-hee gritted his teeth and asked, "Do you know me? My Taekwondo is much stronger than Chinese martial arts." The old man, with murderous aura radiating from him, slowly approached So Min. The old man threatened, "Become my disciple, I will not kill you. Otherwise I will kill you." Righteousness behind him had already endured the pain and stood up. He cheered, "Chinese martial arts are already dead. I only practiced Taekwondo for 3 years and already I have this kind of strength. At first I also worshipped a martial arts master. He told me I had to practice for 10 years to be like him. A few days ago, I beat him and left him completely disabled." Hearing Chin Nia say that, Nam Lin's disciples whispered, "Only studying for 3 years to be so strong? How powerful! I have been practicing with Master Nam for 3 years but my leg strength is still very weak." Seeing that he had successfully stimulated him, Chin Nia chuckled. He really became so strong after 3 years. But unfortunately he had to use banned drugs to help him practice. "By then, you will be like me." Because of banned drugs, they turned into loyal disciples. Nam Lin feared that the disciples were all anxious to become strong. The speed of success has great appeal to them. She said, "Don't waste any more words. This has nothing to do with other people. He's targeting me." So Min turned to reassure Nam Lin. "Senior sister Luke, the masters at that Tan Tong told me a few words before going down the mountain." Then he smiled gently, making Nam Lin's heart feel somewhat soothed. So Min said, "The meaning of the 7 saints is to promote the power of Chinese martial arts, making Chinese martial arts once again top the world." These words made Nam Lin bewildered. So Min then turned serious and said to the old man in front of him, "If there are people who look down on Chinese martial arts, then fight them to convince them. Say your name." "Up to now, I have never fought with anyone." "Nameless." The old man immediately gritted his teeth and introduced, "My name is Park Chung-hee, you must die." So Min immediately took a stance. He thought to himself, although the aura is intimidating, it is only a fluctuation in the great perfection of the true aura. Taekwondo's moves are dominated by the legs and thighs, so you have to be stronger than them. Seeing that the battle seemed tense, Nam Lin's surrounding disciples discussed, "If Master Nam's Jr. loses to Master Park, I will learn Taekwondo from now on." "That's right, as long as you don't get bullied by others. Learning everything is the same, observe first." Park Chung-hee shouted, "Kill!" Then both So Min and Park Chung-hee rushed at each other. The two moves collided with each other, creating a loud explosion. Old Lai threw a kick at So Min's face, but he dodged it. He continued to throw fatal kicks, making it quite difficult for So Min to defend. So Min blocked the attack and thought, he is pressing close to me, he doesn't want me to explode. It shows that he has vaguely sensed his Baoji Quan method. Truly a very rich experience. Everyone watching seemed to be worried about So Min. Du Ho shouted, it seemed like his uncle had been suppressed. That leg kick really hurt. Tan Yen quickly asked Nam Lin. Is So Min dangerous? Nam Lin calmly replied. Don't rush. So Min only needs to find a loophole to defeat him. The battle at this time seems to be leaning towards Park Chung-hee. He continuously launched moves that forced So Min to defend without being able to counterattack. However, it seemed like the old man had realized that So Min was quite strong. He was forced to unleash a killer move, with the same effect. A series of kicks was launched by him. So Min quickly retracted his hands to form an X to block the attack. The two sides continuously collided. While hitting Park Chung-hee, he smiled complacently. Let's see how long you can last. But then he was suddenly startled and worried when he saw the smile that had just appeared on So Min's lips. Before he could calm down, So Min rushed forward. He unleashed the 8-pole ice bow lightning level move, punching powerfully at the old man's knee. Only then did Park Chung-hee realize that he was in danger. But now there was no time left. So Min continued to use the 8 extreme peak hard palm attack, jabbing an elbow into Park Chung-hee's chest. Then he continuously punched the old man, causing him to vomit blood. The battle is over. Park Chung-hee was thrown into the wall even farther than his disciple. Shin Nia was shocked when he saw this scene. On this side, So Min won but also lost a lot of strength. He thought to himself. Fortunately, he ignores the enemy. If he changed his attack technique, it would be quite troublesome. Tan Yen and everyone cheered for joy at So Min's victory. Nam Lin thought to himself, worthy of being a junior brother. Nam Lin's disciples who were shaken just now were also happy. The uncle was still so young and could easily defeat that guy. It seems that our Chinese martial arts are really beefy. Even the Taekwondo disciples were shaken. The master actually lost to a brat. What else do we practice? Trin Chin Nia gritted his teeth in anger. He thought, this scenario is not as imagined. Even the master has lost. So can you still rob Nam Lin of people? But Park Chung-hee hasn't given up yet. The old man slowly stood up with murderous aura surrounding him. Then he slowly walked back, saying, I can still fight. Then he shouted. You haven't won yet, So Min gently warned. My move just now hit your heart. If you force it, you will become disabled. But Park Chung-hee is not afraid. The old man smiled coldly. Then he took out 2 bottles of secret medicine from his chest. In one gulp, he gulped down the 2 bottles of medicine. While drinking, he said, My sect depends on the secret medicine. Seeing his master drink 2 bottles at once, Chin Nia outside was frightened. 2 bottles? Didn't master say that you should only take 1 bottle of this medicine a month? If you exceed the dosage, your blood vessels will explode and you will die. So Min saw Park Chung-hee taking that medicine and immediately thought it was doping. But no, he explained. Don't confuse that with my secret medicine. Then he applied the power once, and his entire body became strong and muscular. The old man smiled complacently. Haha, strength. This is my strength. The Taekwondo disciples were frightened when they saw this. Master, why did you turn into this shape? I didn't learn martial arts to turn into a monster. What exactly did you drink? Chin Nia is also worried about his master. He shouted, Master! Your body won't be able to handle that. Park Chung-hee immediately rushed forward and punched his disciple in the face and shouted, Trash, shut up! After defeating Chin Nia, he turned around and glared at So Min. Nam Lin saw that something was wrong and told So Min. That guy drank medicine. A person like me is not his opponent. Let's go up. So Min also agreed. Indeed, if he doesn't understand martial virtue, then we don't need to be polite. Nam Lin immediately advised. Then try to follow my rhythm. So Min smiled and replied. It's senior sister. Don't fall behind. Immediately, Park Chung-hee rushed forward to take So Min's life. Both So Min and Nam Lin jumped to the sides to avoid his stormy punch. The old man smiled smugly. What's wrong? I can't block even 1 blow. Nam Lin quickly suggested to So Min. I'll attack on the left, you on the right. After saying that, the two split into 2 directions and rushed towards him. 2 sisters, 1 kicking, 1 punching, coordinated to attack Park Chung-hee. The old man angrily roared. I want you to die. Then he turned to attack Nam Lin first with a powerful punch. Nam Lin quickly jumped up to dodge the attack and at the same time signaled So Min. She threw a kick at the back of the old man's head. On this side, So Min also punched him in the chest. Being hit by 2 attacks at once, the old man's body became trembling. The old man breathed heavily and angrily shouted. Hateful! I want to kill you! Not giving him a chance to recover, both So Min and Nam Lin rushed forward at the same time. So Min threw a kick at the left side of his head, and Nam Lin kicked at the other end. After being hit with 2 powerful kicks like that, Even using dozens of doses of doping still wouldn't be enough. The old man's eyes widened in fear, then kneeled down to the ground, finally collapsed, unconscious. Worth it. Victory is at hand. So-min smiled and said, not a bad fight. Du-ho immediately ran over to celebrate. Master and uncle are so cool. Justice is 2 against 1. He grabbed So-min's shoulder and said, Uncle, that guy just said that martial arts has a shortcut. Only practicing for 3 years can become stronger. Master is so young and so powerful. Is it possible? Any tips? So-min turned back and smiled and replied. Do you all want to know? Nam Lin's disciples nodded and waited. So-min happily said, just learned that the masters also taught me. Today I also teach everyone. The path of martial arts has no shortcuts. If the foundation is not solid, it can easily be shaken. There is only one way. The new path can be walked steadily step by step. The disciples opened their eyes wide in admiration. Walk steadily step by step. In fact, this is the best way to practice. Uncle Master is right. We must practice diligently, and soon become as strong as that's it. After that day's battle, everyone was able to relax and rest. That night at Nam Lin's dojo, everyone was preparing to have dinner. Nam Lin invited everyone to the table and said, don't criticize. The aunt who cooked the rice is on leave today. Everyone ate a few bites. So-min was gluttonous, and when he sat down, he kept praising the deliciousness. Tan Yen next to him reminded. Slowly, don't choke, Han Swang said while chewing. Don't worry about him. He has excellent medical skills. Even if he chokes, he has a way to save himself. Nam Lin nodded in confirmation. Suddenly Han Swang groaned. Tan Yen asked worriedly. Han Swang, your illness has come back again? Han Swang immediately replied. I can still handle it. I've been sightseeing a lot today. I want to go home a little early. So-min agreed as he ate. It's okay. 7th senior sister has to practice and treat her illness. She can't keep it for long. Having said that, everyone greeted Nam Lin and got in the car to go home. So-min smiled and advised. Later, I will prepare some good medicine to help senior sister Luke restore her dantian. Nam Lin smiled and replied. So it's all thanks to little junior brother. Those medicines are definitely not easy to find. If you need me, just let me know. Now let's cure 7th junior sister's wound first. Then Nam Lin frowned and advised Du-ho. Drive slowly. Junior sister, if anything happens to my junior brother, I will not ignore it. Du-ho accepted the driver's job and immediately replied with a wink. Master, don't worry. I'm a very steady driver. Then, the car drove away. Nam Lin watched the car leave the inside and thought. At most in 2 years I will become a disabled person. Is there really a chance to change this time? In the car, Han Swang tiredly leaned on Tan Yen's shoulder. Tan Yen worriedly asked So-min. So-min, Han Swang's face is very unsightly. Does it seem very serious? So-min turned around and replied. Her old and new injuries recurred at the same time. The condition is quite serious. Need to return to treatment immediately. Du-ho was also sweating and said nervously. Uncle, don't rush. It's night time, there aren't many cars. I'll drive faster. The group did not know that someone was secretly watching them. He slowly finished smoking the cigarette. When I saw the car of So-min's group coming, he stepped on the gas pedal and flashed a scary smile. Then he accelerated the car and crashed directly into the side of So-min's car. This guy stepped on the accelerator and laughed like a devil. He muttered, Tai Han Swang, go and die for me. This was clearly an intentional accident. After crashing the car carrying So-min's group, causing a fire to flare up, the perpetrator stepped out. While taking pictures, he told himself, take a few pictures so that Sister Trin can see her bravery. He is Trin Veen's subordinate. Inside the car, Du-ho was unconscious, but So-min seemed to be nowhere to be found. Looking at Kai Han Swang, he smiled contemptuously. Hee, what's new Tin Empress HSL, still just a normal person. Looking at the unconscious Han Swang, he smiled and said, what is HSL's new female star? Still just an ordinary person. One touch and death. Suddenly, a voice from behind rang out. Did you intentionally crash the car? He was startled and turned around to look. Behind him, So-min slowly walked forward and said, tell me who you are. Why are you doing this? He shouted loudly. I advise you to stop worrying about money. Otherwise, you won't know how you die. So-min pulled out 2 silver needles from his fingers. Then he shot out 2 silver needles and shouted, answer me quickly. 2 needles were immediately inserted into the man's 2 acupuncture points. His whole body screamed in pain. What are you doing? Then he laughed and cried out in pain. It hurts. It's ridiculous. Damn it, what did you do? So-min seriously threatened. Quickly say it. Otherwise, I will make your life worse than death. The man had no choice but to confess. It hurts so much. As the general director of YQ, Trin Veen ordered me. Ha! Please forgive me. I beg. So-min removed the acupuncture points for him. He continued asking, is there any evidence to prove what you said? The other guy immediately gave the phone to So-min and said, in the phone I have a recording with Trin Veen. Even though he gave it to So-min, this guy was secretly happy. Even if you saw it, what would happen? Kai Han Swang is dead. Our purpose has been accomplished. Suddenly, a hand snatched his phone away. That's Du-ho. He held his swollen cheek while looking at his phone. Du-ho immediately announced, "It's really Trin Veen. I miss her." Behind, Tan Yen also helped Han Swang forward, startling Trin Veen's subordinate. Han Swang spoke up. "If you can't win against me in the marketplace, you'll use this despicable trick." The other guy turned around in shock and asked, Why aren't you dead yet?" Han Swang frowned and replied, "Fortunately, there is So-min. If it weren't for him predicting the danger and using true energy to control the vehicle's body, we would really be dead." So-min blinked. "Am I powerful?" The other guy panicked and quickly reached out to grab the phone from Du-ho. He absolutely cannot let the evidence be taken away. So-min has been recording video of the scene from a while ago, he said brightly. "This video recording function is really easy to use. All the words from just now are recorded." That guy fell into a dead end. He screamed, "You guys actually want to harm me? I risk my life with you." Du-ho immediately punched him in the face and shouted, "Don't even think about laying a hand on my uncle." After punching him, Du-ho gloated and thought, "How many times have I been hit in the face today? And in return I can hit others, that's enough." So-min looked at Du-ho, who was planning to hit that guy a few more times. He said, "This is not called planning. This is called taking advantage of the situation." A moment later, everyone returned to Han Swang's house. So-min, after finishing acupuncture for Han Swang, immediately said, "Senior Sister 7, the acupuncture is finished. Lie still and wait another hour." Han Swang turned around and thanked. "Thank you, little brother. I just got the evidence. I sent it to the public relations department in the company. She is extremely sorry for involving So-min." So-min smiled reassuringly. "Senior Sister, your matter is also my matter." "What does it matter?" Han Swang suddenly turned to ask So-min. "Can you help Senior Sister Luke restore Dan Dain?" So-min then seriously replied, "I was also planning to ask you. Senior Sister Luke's Dan Dain was not broken by you but was hit by a spell." Han Swang was extremely surprised and asked again, "Spells?" So-min immediately explained, "That's right. This spell is very powerful. Long-term use of pharmaceutical treatment can completely restore the condition. Furthermore, it can be especially difficult to find those special pharmaceuticals these days. Do you remember where you used to help Senior Sister Luke use the magic to stimulate the Dan Dain?" Han Swang thought for a moment and then replied, "It seems to be in a temple, but that temple has no name. It seems that it can no longer be found." At the same time, at the mysterious temple that Han Swang just mentioned, a man called Kyung Gwyn Evil Monk was sitting eating meat and drinking wine. Even though he was a monk, he ordered the woman next to him to pour wine. Then he deliciously tore off the piece of meat. Suddenly, as if sensing something, he exclaimed in surprise, "Someone broke my spell!" He was so angry that he broke the wine bowl in his hand. It turned out that the person who used the spell on Nam Lin was this Kyung Gwyn Evil Monk. He pressed his hand to find out who was so bold. Then, as if he had figured it out, he saw the image of Nam Lin. He exclaimed, "It's Kon Noyet Fu, a disciple of that rotten teacher. Someone wants to help her cast a spell." Evil Monk Kyung Gwyn clenched his fists, gritted his teeth and said, "Per monk originally only wanted to eliminate that rotten disciple of yours. Now it seems I'm still soft-hearted." Then he smiled savagely, wondering, "How is that baby now?" Returned to Han Swang's mansion. After finishing treatment, Tan Yen waved So-min out. So-min asked in surprise, "What's the matter?" Tan Yen asked So-min, "Do you need me to help Han Swang treat today?" So-min blushed and replied confusedly, "Of course I need it, but it won't be until another hour. Just go out." So-min scratched his head and blushed, thinking, although the double cultivation method is simple and effective, but it's also a little too stimulating. Thinking of the scene of two girls cuddling each other, So-min couldn't help but blush. Seeing that he was thinking haphazardly, So-min held his head and calmed himself down. He sat down on the chair and started scrolling through his phone to see the news. So-min scrolled to today's hot news. Shocking. General Director of YQ Group Trin Veen can do this. Buried in heaven. YQ Group is such an evil corporation. YQ Group's products are not worth buying. They want to kill people. Reading news like this, So-min secretly admired the effectiveness of the public relations department of HSL Group. Suddenly, So-min discovered something. He saw a lot of thick smoke and fog covering the house. Outside, someone shouted loudly, "Kai Han Swang, you don't want my YQ Group to live anymore? Then I will join you forever." Along with that scream came a fierce fire. So-min was startled and exclaimed, "Not good." Someone set the fire. The fire rose extremely quickly. There are also strange liquids being poured into the house. The screams kept ringing out, "Die, die, die." So-min covered his mouth with his hand and said to himself, "Too bold. Don't let me catch you." He tried to open the door but failed. It turned out that the door was tied by someone outside. Outside, the two arsonists were laughing smugly. One guy said, "As expected of a big brother, he beat them to death from the outside." The other guy heard that and calmly exhaled a cigarette. Then he waved his hand and said, "Let's go quickly." "The mission has been completed," the junior asked worriedly. "Aren't you here to keep watch? What if they escape?" The big brother angrily hit his junior and shouted, "Stop wasting words." Then he told his two juniors to leave quickly. As he left, the red-haired big brother thought to himself, "General Trin is getting more and more crazy. He must leave me a way out. If you stay by my side, sooner or later." Inside the house was on fire. So-min tried his best but could not open the door. He realized the situation was not good now. The fire broke out very quickly, forcing So-min to quickly go in and call Tan Yen and Han Swang. He quickly ran to open the door. In front of him were Tan Yen and Han Swang practicing together. Tan Yen and Han Swang were so embarrassed that their faces turned red. So-min hesitated embarrassedly. "Maybe the treatment will be a little late. The house is on fire." Hearing that, both Han Swang and Tan Yen were startled and turned pale. All three quickly covered their mouths and tried to run out. Han Swang wondered, why did it suddenly burn? So-min just tried to break down the door. He replied that he was the one who intentionally set the fire. Probably still the guys from YQ Group. Having finished speaking, he transferred the energy to his legs and swung his legs up. The nails that fixed the external ligaments also began to loosen. With just one kick, So-min kicked the door open. Then he quickly told the two to run away. In the end, all three escaped the fire, escaping with their lives. So-min looked back at the fierce fire, and the two women were safe. At this moment, So-min breathed a sigh of relief. It was too dangerous. Tan Yen quickly took out the phone to call the fire department, but Han Swang stopped him. She said, "No need anymore. Let it burn. Burn as hard as possible." Tan Yen was extremely confused when he heard that. Then Han Swang asked So-min and Tan Yen to go to the observation room together. Through the observation screen, they saw a group of people hired by YQ Company shouting outside, "Kai-ham Swang, you don't want YQ to live anymore, then I will kill you together." Seeing such a situation, Kai-ham Swang frowned and said, "It is indeed them." It seems that after seeing the published news, Trin AI completely lost his reason. Hearing that, So-min wondered, didn't she already lose her reason? So-min also realized at the same time, the people who want to kill us are also them. Tan Yen immediately wondered, "So what should we do?" Kai-ham Swang immediately replied, "Now you can call the fire department. Notify the media, take a few photos, get video from the surveillance camera and give it to the company's public relations department." Kai-ham Swang's face changed. She frowned, determined. "This time we must destroy them." At the same time at YQ Company, a painful scream rang out. Trin AI is extremely angry right now. She pointed her finger at the subordinate and shouted, "Fuck you, are you an idiot? You set fire to kill people and scream YQ's name. You don't even know how to disguise yourself. Do you want to kill me?" The red-haired subordinate held his cheek in pain and groaned. "Don't I want to help you relieve your anger? Let Kai-ham Swang know whose hands he died in." Hearing that, Trin AI became even angrier. She kicked this guy's face and shouted, "Shut up! I'm about to die in your hands now." She used great force, put all her strength into kicking the stupid subordinate's face and shouted, "What to do? Who can tell us what to do?" Another white-haired subordinate was calmer. He gently reassured, "Mr. Trin, don't panic. We still have the last resort." Trin AI seems to be in the dark. She quickly exclaimed, "Speak!" The white-haired subordinate looked down at the red-haired man with a cunning expression and said, "The person who set the fire is not Mr. Trin, but the person under your feet. If we catch the prisoner, use YQ's name to set the fire and found out his identity as a member of HSL." His proposal was indeed too cunning. He put on a scheming face and continued, "This arson case, wasn't HSL's Kai-ham Swang self-directed?" Hearing such an attractive proposal, Trin AI became excited again. She grinned. "That makes sense. Kai-ham Swang ordered his subordinates to set fire to his own house, slandering YQ. Because of business competition, he did such a bad thing to gain sympathy from the public like that." Having finished speaking, she laughed loudly. "Haha, he will turn into a clown in the eyes of the public." Waiting for the red-haired subordinate to sit up, Trin AI looked at him and said, "If you want to suffer, then go and suffer alone. I have treated you well for so many years, shouldn't you repay me?" Trin AI had a scheming look on her face and said, "Do you know what to do?" The red-haired subordinate lowered his head and helplessly replied, "I know." Seeing the cunning of the white-haired subordinate, Trin AI leaned closer to him and praised, "Indeed, it's still you, cunning and scheming." She caressed his cheek and invited, "Come, let's go into the room." While pulling this guy's tie, Trin AI ordered, "You have to work a little harder tonight." The white-haired subordinate happily replied, "Don't worry. I'm sure you will be satisfied." So they pulled together into the ABC room before the stinging eyes of the red-haired subordinate. The door to the room closed before his eyes. The red-haired man outside clenched his fists, angrily cursing silently. "That Trin, you turned me into a loser. So let's wait and see." The next day, Kai-ham Swang was admiring himself in the mirror. Then she turned to ask Tan Yen, "How is my body?" Tan Yen expressed admiration and replied, "Nonsense. Absurd. Too unreasonable. Kai Ham Swang put on his glasses and looked puzzled. Nonsense, Tan Yen immediately explained. I'm talking about this room. That house of yours that was burned down, I think is magnificent enough. Feeling like she was just a poor girl, Tan Yen exclaimed. I didn't expect you to have a bigger, more ostentatious house than this. Is this the life of a CEO? Kai Ham Swang gently said as he put on his coat. I have 3 more houses like this. Things like houses have no meaning. It's just that there is one house in each city, convenient for work. Job. She looked at the confused Tan Yen and continued. For example, this apartment is closest to YQ Group. After listening, Tan Yen didn't know what to say. She absent-mindedly thought. Indeed, the thinking of rich people is very difficult to explain. Kai Ham Swang then went out and called his younger brother who was sitting in the waiting chair. So-min, it's time to depart. So-min was currently reading a book called The 7 Sacred Sects of Medicine, and immediately turned to answer. Okay. He quickly hid the book in his shirt and stood up. Seeing this, Kai Ham Swang immediately asked. Is this the medical book that the great master gave you? So-min happily replied. I am researching how to treat senior sister Luke's Dantian. The medicine has also been decided. When 7 senior sisters' matter is resolved, I will come help senior sister Luke restore Dantian. So-min also suddenly remembered that he had not contacted Vu Lam Lam for a long time, so he thought to himself. The matter of accepting my first disciple must be done quickly. I also have to reveal the details to the 7 Saints sect. Seeing that So-min was ready, Kentucky Ham Swang suggested. Okay. Then let's fight quickly and win quickly. Let's go now. Currently at YQ Company. Inside Trin AI's phone, loud notifications about the arson incident were continuously coming out. Trin AI felt like she was sitting on a fire. She scrolled down to read the comments and was angry. The spreading speed was very fast. Kai Ham Swang over there is not idle either. The white-haired subordinate sitting next to him still calmly flashed a scheming smile and reassured him. Don't worry. It's been arranged well. I bribed a small HR of HSL company to change my documents. An employee of their internal system. He smiled proudly and said, I don't know the devil. Our people have become employees of HSL. Trin AI sat next to her and smiled. So now we just need to wait for Kai Ham Swang to bring the reporters and police to the door. The subordinate waved his hand and smiled, saying, No, there is one last step. He ordered his subordinates to bring out the red-haired subordinate and said, We must be the ones to catch the arsonist. Looking at the red-haired guy who was high as if on drugs, he proudly explained, To prevent this guy from betraying me, I stopped smoking. Seeing the careful preparation of his subordinates, Trin AI proudly praised. Not bad. There can't be any mistakes next. Suddenly, the phone rang. Trin AI calmly stood up to check her pulse. On the other end of the line, the subordinate's voice announced. President Trin, there are many reporters downstairs, and there is also HSL General Director Kai Ham Swang. They want to go up there to meet you. It seems there are still police. We can't stop it. Hearing that, Trin AI calmly smiled and replied. No need to block, let them go up. The other end of the line obeyed. Understood. After answering, Trin AI hung up the phone and smiled triumphantly. A good drama is about to open. Outside, Kai Ham Swang's group was also coming. Kai Ham Swang said to So-min, Mr. Trin's office is in front. Seeing them enter with such enthusiasm, the female assistant quickly ran in to announce. Mr. Trin, someone is here. Trin AI smiled cunningly and said, Invite them in. Kai Ham Swang walked in with great enthusiasm. No need to invite. Let's go in ourselves. As soon as she walked in, Kai Ham Swang loudly asked. Trin Tom, may I ask, was the person who set the fire last night under your instructions? Both the fire last night and the car crash before that, do you have anything to say? The reporters immediately gathered around Trin AI and asked repeatedly. President Trin, are you YQ really a dark force? Are you really killing people because of the trade war? In response to the overwhelming questions, Trin AI calmly replied. Ha! I don't know who spread that news about us, but these words are unfounded. Our company YQ from before up to now, we have always followed the principles of fair and honest competition, never doing such tricks. Hearing these lies, Kai Ham Swang couldn't keep calm anymore and slammed the table angrily. I recorded the surveillance video and the conversation. Do I need to open it for you to see? Trin AI gently waved his hand in order and announced. There's no need. Last night, the person who set fire to Mr. Kai's house, I helped you catch him. Hearing that, Kai Ham Swang frowned and asked again. Caught the person who set the fire? The reporters heard that and were extremely wondering what was going on. If it was Mr. Trin's person, she should have told him to run, right? Can Mr. Trin speak a little more clearly? Trin AI immediately ordered. Bring him out here. Immediately, the door on the right opened. Stepping out was the white-haired subordinate. He brought the red-haired man along and said, Everyone, he is the one who set the fire last night. He used his hand to push the red-haired man forward. Then he looked straight at the reporters' cameras and loudly announced. This guy is an employee of HSL. Everything is their own drama. blaming us at YQ. Hearing that, Kai Ham Swang was startled and exclaimed. What? The reporters were also startled and exclaimed. That person is an employee of HSL? Is it real or fake? Is this still happening? On this side, Trin AI took something out of the drawer and smiled cunningly. This is a document I accidentally got. Everyone can take a look. She slammed the file she just took out on the table. The reporters gathered together and exclaimed in panic. This is the inauguration paper, employee card, and work records at HSL. Kai Ham Swang was also extremely surprised, shouting. Get away! Get away! Let me see if it's real or fake. Kai Ham Swang looked confused and asked again. How is that possible? So Min immediately patted his sister's shoulder to reassure him. Calm down. You guys are slandering. Looking at Trin AI's proud face, So Min thought to himself. No wonder when I reached the door, they were so calm. Turns out it was waiting. A female police officer picked up the file and affirmed. It's real. On these documents there's HSL's stamp, and also the signature of the Human Resources Manager. The employee card is also real. Work records. This is indeed the packaging design plan for HSL's newly launched product. Trin AI looked extremely pleased. The female police officer turned around and asked Kai Ham Swang. What's going on? The reporters immediately pointed their noses at Kai Ham Swang and asked repeatedly. Mr. Kai, please explain a little more clearly. Are you trying to harm Mr. Trin? Mr. Kai, that person is really your employee. President Kai, are you doing so many things to destroy YQ? Kai Ham Swang coldly replied. No. He is not. Trin AI stood up and laughed proudly. The evidence is clear. You still want to deny it? To sabotage us at YQ. Kai Ham Swang, you personally staged such a big show? It really opened my eyes. That view, Kai Ham Swang is weak. She worriedly thought, what to do? These people are so insidious. These documents are feared to have been bribed by Human Resources Department staff to produce them. If there is no way to change defeat into victory, this time is dangerous. So Min is calmer than his senior sister. He looked at the drugged redhead and thought to himself. The key point now is on that man. Seeing Kai Tong's confusion, Trin AI proudly asked. Kai Tong, do you have anything to say? She then chuckled and continued smugly. If not, let's meet in court. Kai Ham Swang lost his temper and was about to rush up to talk to Trin AI, but was stopped by So Min. Seventh senior sister, you don't need to talk. Maybe I have a way. Kai Ham Swang was surprised. Do you have a solution? So Min then stepped forward and asked Trin AI. You said we'd do it ourselves. So do you dare let us ask the other person a few questions in front of everyone? Trin AI glanced at the white-haired subordinate for advice and immediately saw him signal his agreement. Satisfied, Trin AI loudly challenged. Okay, you ask? In her heart, she was secretly happy. Even if you ask, you won't get anything. So Min slowly approached the red-haired man in front of everyone's eyes. So Min took a few sniffs and discovered that this guy was drugged and hypnotized. Glancing at the two other people who were proud, So Min smiled slightly. Doing these things in front of me, I really don't know how to be self-reliant. So Min gently patted the red-haired man's shoulder. Then he gently asked him. Are you sure you are from HSL? Did someone intentionally instruct you to say that? The red-haired man suddenly whispered. I am HSL's man. As soon as he heard him whisper, So Min secretly cast a spell on his shoulder. Then he asked again. Think carefully. The red-haired man's eyes were still hazy. Then suddenly, his eyes opened wide, completely awake. Seeing that So Min was still stubborn, the white-haired man proudly said. Leading like that won't work, kid. The truth is the truth. At this moment, the red-haired man suddenly shouted. He coughed up a clot of blood in front of everyone. After fully waking up, the red-haired man shouted. No! I am not a member of HSL. It was Trin AI who ordered me to set the fire. Hearing that, Trin AI was startled and exclaimed. What? The white-haired subordinate next to him was also surprised. Why is it like that? Why is he awake? The reporters were also incensed. Are heaven and earth still turning around? Today's title is hot. The red-haired guy then told the whole truth. Trin AI told me to go to Mr. Kai's house and set fire to it, and also made me her substitute. Furthermore, she also bribed HSL people to fill in my information in HSL company records. Trin AI pointed her finger at the other man in panic and shouted. Lie. Don't stay there and spit blood. The female police officer turned around with a serious face and asked. Mr. Trin, what exactly is this? Trin AI quickly clarified. Comrade police, you can't trust them. Could you trust a criminal who set fire? The white-haired guy also added. That's right. They were forced into a corner and then turned to bite us back. The red-haired guy quickly shouted. No! I have evidence that can prove everything was done by Trin AI. Hearing that, the female police officer turned serious. The white-haired subordinate clearly looked frightened. And Trin AI also opened her mouth, not knowing what to say. So Min smiled triumphantly. Is that so? Then bring the evidence here, the red-haired man immediately said to So Min. Can you untie me? The evidence is in the bag. So Min immediately untied him. The red-haired man hugged his shoulder in pain. His body trembled and said, "Thank you. These two bastards were afraid I would run away and tied me up all night." Then he shouted at the two traitors. "Do you really think I'm a fool? I knew long ago that you two would leave me alone to bear the blame. Everything was already prepared. When you discussed it, I secretly recorded a plan to harm Kai Ham Swang." Hearing that, Trin Ai was startled and frightened. "What?" On this side, the red-haired guy turned on the recording. The sound was extremely realistic and clear. "Baby, everything is done. I bought HSL's materials. The documents are all very real, just change the name." "Very good, then the arson incident will have nothing to do with Trin Ai. Who would have thought that we would burn Kai Ham Swang's house and blame everything on her?" The extremely clear recording made the other two tremble like leaves. The red-haired guy raised the phone high and shouted loudly. Everyone heard it. "These things all came from Trin Ai's mouth." So Min smiled proudly and asked again. "You two, do you have anything else to say?" Trin Ai quickly clarified. "No. That recording is fake. It's all fake. The redhead isn't done yet." He smiled back. "Fake it? I don't know how many bad things you've done." Then he loudly denounced to the media. YQ Company added banned ingredients to cosmetics to spread propaganda and gain huge profits. Being betrayed, Trin Ai trembled with anger, screaming. You are a traitor, you dare to sell me out." The red-haired man frowned and replied. You want to put this pot on me? Dream on. Everything has become clear." Immediately, the female police officer put the number 8 bracelet on Trin Ai's hand before her shocked eyes. The female police officer coldly ordered. "Go. Follow us." The reporters kept asking. "Mr. Trin, these are banned drugs added in production. Can you tell us more about the process of setting fire to Mr. Kai's house?" "Mr. Trin, I heard that you still have food to feed." Little white flag outside, Trin Ai slowly walked away with number 8 handcuffs in her hand. Around her were countless questions from reporters. "Mr. Trin, please explain a little." The white-haired subordinate was also standing still. He trembled. It's over. Watching the other two being led away, the red-haired man spat in disdain. Male and female dogs. This is the result of despising the old man. Back to So Min and Kai Ham Swang. Both walked out of YQ Company with the position of winners. So Min proudly walked away and said, "Luckily the Trin family sucked all the reporters away. Otherwise we wouldn't have left so easily." Kai Ham Swang breathed a sigh of relief and thanked him. "This time, I'm lucky to have a junior brother." So Min scratched his head in confusion and replied. "Actually, it's not like I helped you. We call evil people evil." Hearing that, Kai Ham Swang burst out laughing. "Ha! Haven't heard those words for a long time. You are really different from the people here. Having you in the Seven Saint sect is considered to have an heir." Having finished his work, Kai Ham Swang turned to ask. "That's right, next, how do you want to help senior sister Luke restore her dantian?" So Min frowned and replied. "It's a bit troublesome. We have to find poisonous snakes and dancing snakes, then use their honey leaves as medicine. But I asked the great master, he said. Vu snake is no longer in this world." Hearing So Min say that, Kai Ham Swang looked puzzled. "Vu snake? I've never heard of it. Do you know what it looks like?" So Min closed his eyes, recalling the image of the martial snake he had read in the book, and replied, "The fairy has no image. Only says it has a pair of wings on its back, lives in the south of Thap Van Dai Sun." Hearing such a strange description, Kai Ham Swang looked suspicious. The snake had wings on its back. Does this animal really exist? But So Min seriously replied. "I don't know, but the great master said that the martial snake has not appeared for a long time, so it proves that you have seen it. I trust the great master." Having finished speaking, So Min turned to Kai Ham Swang and said, "I'll go buy some things to prepare. I need to go to Thap Van Dai Sun to find this type of snake. It will probably take a lot of time." Kai Ham Swang happily suggested. "No problem. I'll take you there." So the two drove to the shopping center. After the car stopped, Kai Ham Swang introduced. "This is the largest shopping center in Zhangchao. What you need to buy will probably be here." So Min happily quickly opened the car door, got out and said, "Then I won't be polite anymore." Kai Ham Swang nodded. "Let's go see first. Let's go find a parking spot." The inside of the shopping center is indeed very spacious. The clothing stall displays many beautiful clothes. The jewelry booth also has countless sparkling jewelry. Seeing such a busy center, So Min could not hide his admiration and exclaimed, "Wow!" Suddenly, So Min's phone rang in his pocket. So Min quickly took out his phone to check. On the phone was a message full of anger from Vu Lam Lam. "What have you been busy with these past 2 days? Why didn't you contact me?" So Min smiled, pressed the reply message and said to himself, "She still remembers me. Accepting students is very interesting." Suddenly in the distance, a startled girl turned to look. Seeing So Min holding the phone towards her, the girl pointed and exclaimed, Secretly taking a photo?" So Min was startled and looked up in surprise. The girl in front of her still pointed her finger at So Min and shouted, Delete the photos on your phone for me, you pervert. So-min coldly put the phone in his pocket and replied. Miss, I'm not blind. With this bit of your personality, do I need to secretly take a photo? Hearing that, the girl became even angrier. She ran back to So-min and shouted. You! Who are you calling lady? What about my appearance? Suddenly, a fat man holding 2 glasses of water hurriedly ran over and asked. Baby, what's going on? The girl pointed at So-min and whispered. Darling, he secretly took pictures of me. He still doesn't admit it. The fat young man immediately gave 2 glasses of water to his girlfriend. Then he turned and pointed at So-min and shouted. Give me your phone. You have a lot of courage, daring to secretly take pictures of my girlfriend. The curious people around were also chatting. You look so bright. Why are you secretly taking pictures of people like that? It's true that you can't look at their face to capture the image. Don't do good things, just do bad things. Nonsense. So-min coldly turned around and intended to leave without much argument. He said, I didn't secretly take pictures of her. I also don't need to prove it. Say goodbye. The fat young man angrily raised his fist and rushed towards So-min and shouted. You still want to secretly take pictures of my girlfriend? I'll skin you today. He punched So-min from behind, but he quickly tilted his head to dodge. Then he grabbed his arm. So-min used force to gently bend his arm, causing the fat man to scream in pain. It turned out that So-min was just testing this young man's strength. So-min said, Brother, your pulse is very weak and your kidneys are weak. Go back and drink more goji berries and deer velvet. The fat guy shouted. Whoa! I'm not kidney deficient. Quickly let me go. So-min also doesn't want to get involved. He released his hand and added. Say it again. I didn't take pictures of your girlfriend, nor am I interested in her. He turned his head to look at the girl and continued. Compared to the people I've met, she's just a shiny person. The fat man clasped his hands in pain and responded. Just a kid, what are you bragging about? Just with this flirty appearance of yours, are you worthy of being with a beautiful woman? His girlfriend also followed suit. That's right, don't go look in the mirror to see how you look. How can a woman look right at you? Suddenly a voice from behind rang out. So-min, what's going on? Everyone turned to the direction the voice came from. They saw Kai-ham Swang with a noble appearance and immediately admired. So beautiful. Even women are amazed by Kai-ham Swang's beauty. Her S-shaped body. Her beauty is as defiant as this. The best of the best, Kai-ham Swang, is the young talented beauty of HSL Kai-ham Swang. So-min smiled and turned around, confused, and called out. 7th senior sister. Kai-ham Swang quickly hugged So-min's hand and asked. What are you doing here? So-min confusedly replied. It's okay. Just a little misunderstanding. The surrounding crowd was extremely admiring. Hand in hand, ignoring the crowd's eyes, Kai-ham Swang pulled So-min's hand and said, Let's go shopping. The fat young man's girlfriend looked jealous, frowned and said, This girl is just a little young, a little beautiful, has a little figure. Her man is not even photographed. Sneaking around? Suddenly, the fat young man turned and slapped his girlfriend in the face and shouted, Shut up. Do you really think you're a little fairy? On this side, So-min felt embarrassed. Senior sister 7, you're hugging too tight. Kai-ham Swang turned around and playfully asked. What's wrong? Don't like this feeling? Looking at the young men around him whose ears were pulled by his girlfriend, Kai-ham Swang smiled. Other people are admiring you. So-min smiled wryly. It's not that I don't like it, but I'm a little embarrassed. Kai-ham Swang smiled and replied. It's okay. You'll get used to it later. After that, they both went shopping together. After buying things, Kai-ham Swang also took So-min back to the motel room. Getting out of the car, So-min happily waved goodbye and advised Tan Yen. Sister Yen, I'll be gone for a long time this time. Please take care of 7 sisters. Tan Yen happily accepted. Kai-ham Swang, just leave it to me. Don't worry. I will definitely cure her illness. Kai-ham Swang behind him also gently advised. Junior brother, pay attention to safety. The car left while So-min waved. Be careful on the road. So-min with a happy expression walked inside. Suddenly, a cloud of smoke behind him turned into a human figure and approached him. This person raised his hand to attack So-min from behind. So-min was startled and turned his head to look. He quickly raised his hand to block the stranger's attack and shouted. Who is it? The other guy didn't answer but still attacked So-min. So-min also quickly blocked all of his attacks and said to himself. This move is strange. Tai Chi hand. At this moment, So-min clearly saw the face of the person attacking him. Realizing that his attacker was a martial arts master, So-min looked excited. That's interesting. Then I'll fight you a few moves. He used one hand to block the other man's blow. With the other hand he swung a fist filled with spiritual energy and warned. Be careful. So-min's fist was hitting straight into the attacker's chest. However, he stopped without punching this guy in the ribs. This surprised him. So-min smiled slightly. The other guy quickly jumped back to take a defensive stance. So-min on this side is also putting strength into his right hand. Both of them threw powerful punches at each other. The spiritual energy of both one red and one blue, collided fiercely with each other. Both are fighting extremely strongly but still maintain a bit of caution. Seeing that So-min had no intention of attacking him, the other martial arts master looked puzzled. So-min clasped his hands and greeted politely. Who exactly is senior? Why did you attack me? The other martial arts master also clasped his hands in return and replied. Little friend So-min is truly renowned, worthy of being a martial arts genius who can destroy the entire Truong family. Suddenly the door in So-min's house opened. Vu Lam Lam leaned his head out and said, Have you seen him? I told you he was very powerful. Seeing Vu Lam Lam, So-min was startled and exclaimed. Do Vu Lam Lam? Why you? Vu Lam Lam looked annoyed and said angrily. I texted you and didn't reply. I can only go to your house to wait. Remembering that he had not responded to Vu Lam Lam's text message, So-min thought to himself. At that time, I often encountered a group of people causing trouble, plus that appearance of senior sister Seven. I had all forgotten. So-min then invited them both inside to drink tea. He asked the martial artist. Senior's Tai Chi hand is very powerful. Is he also from the Vu family? Vu Lam Lam quickly replied. Of course. Uncle Vanda is one of the most powerful players in my family. My grandfather liked him very much, and even specially changed his last name, also named Du. Like us, we have become one family. Master Vanda finished drinking his tea and asked So-min. Little friend So probably knows Vu Lam Lam's identity, right? So-min happily replied. Of course I know. Vanda put down the teacup and said to Vu Lam Lam. Can you come here and peel some fruit? Vu Lam Lam quickly picked up the fruit bag and replied. Yes. Looking at Vu Lam Lam going inside, Vanda said. Vu Lam Lam is the child I saw grow up. He is a good child. Looking straight at So-min, Vanda sternly instructed. You two are normal friends, I have no opinion. But you absolutely cannot become her boyfriend. Hearing this sentence, So-min was startled and spit tea out of his mouth. Confused, he used a paper towel to wipe away the tea on the table and smiled awkwardly. I'm sorry, Mr. Du, you spoke too suddenly, you scared me. Vanda wiped the tea from his face and said. It's okay. You must have heard those words clearly, right? Then he straightened his face and said with a serious look. You are grateful to the Vu family. Vu Lam Lam also likes you very much. But because of the big situation, the two of you cannot be together. Vu Lam Lam must marry Vong family. Remembering that the young lady looked down on Vu Lam Lam at the restaurant earlier, So-min said with a serious face. Your Majesty? He thought to himself. The royal family is nothing, Vanda continued. That's right, it's the Vong family. Even though we have absorbed the Truong family's resources, we still have no way to be on par with the current Vong family. During this time, Vu Lam Lam was still peeling the fruit inside. Looking at his niece, Vanda continued. Furthermore, if the Vu family wants to advance to a higher stage, they must marry the royal family. Otherwise, they will forever be stuck in this Zhangchao city. So-min also glanced at Vu Lam Lam inside and asked Vanda. Have you asked Vu Lam Lam's thoughts? Vanda took a sip of tea and replied. For people of our class, the family's interests are above all else. After hearing this, So-min clenched his fists and asserted. I understand. But I feel that Vu Lam Lam being happy is more important. Hearing So-min's words, the glass of water in Vanda's hand was immediately broken. Vanda still kept a stern face and instructed So-min. Mr. So, I'm not here to negotiate with you, but on behalf of the Vu family to inform you. I hope you stay away from Vu Lam Lam in the future. So-min suddenly smiled softly in response. Oh. What if I don't agree? Immediately, Vanda angrily stood up and said loudly. Then don't blame me for being rude. Suddenly, Vu Lam Lam walked out with a plate of fruit in his hand and wondered. Uncle Vanda, why are you standing up? Vanda turned around to leave and replied. Let's get ready to go. Mr. So is busy. Vu Lam Lam put down the fruit plate and asked sadly. Is that so? So-min flashed a friendly smile and replied. I'll come visit you when I finish this. Is Grandpa Vu okay? Vu Lam Lam looked sad and said. Grandpa is very kind, but I haven't told you a few words yet. She looked disappointed and bored. So you want to leave? Seeing Vu Lam Lam so sad, So-min smiled and said. Don't worry. I won't let you wait long. Looking at Vu Lam Lam and So-min happily chatting away, Vanda glanced and frowned, thinking. Your brat, if you didn't drink the wine that was offered to you, then wait until you drink the punishment. Vu Lam Lam waved goodbye to So-min. So-min, see you next time. Then she turned around and followed Vanda. So-min happily replied. Okay, goodbye. His door is closed. Immediately, So-min frowned and thought, it seems that the Vu family is not an iron plate. Hope there won't be any incidents. Then he walked into the room, scratched his head and said to himself. Don't think anymore. He went to the bedroom to pack his things, preparing to go with Sister Luke to Thap Van Dai Sun in Nam Quang. The next morning, So-min has prepared his personal belongings. He put on his shoes and said to himself. I'm well prepared. I don't know, Sister Luke. As soon as he mentioned Sixth Sister, his doorbell rang. Outside, the screams of the neighboring women echoed. Who is that? Don't let other people sleep early in the morning? Who is that crazy? If you press one more button, I will beat you to death. Outside it turned out to be Do-ho. He waved to So-min. Uncle. So-min got in the car and asked Do-ho. Is it you? Where is my sister? Do-ho immediately smiled and replied. Master has already arrived at the airport to wait for you. I will definitely give you a surprise. So-min immediately wondered. Surprise? What is it? Do-ho smiled mysteriously. When you get to the airport, your uncle will know. So the car then drove to the airport. A moment later, at Jiangzhou's city airport. Arriving at the airport terminal, So-min got off the bus. Do-ho waved to his master. Master, I can only send you here. Wishing you and master a safe journey. So-min also waved his hand happily and replied. Oh, thanks for your luck. Seeing senior sister Luke in front, So-min ran over and waved. Senior sister Luke. Namlin looked at So-min's backpack and nodded. Well prepared. Not bad, she happily said to So-min. This action, you are in charge. I will do my best to cooperate with you. So-min excitedly replied. Yes. We will definitely find Vu Axe. Then he turned around to head to the plane and said, then let's depart. But Namlin seems to have something else going on. She held So-min's hand. Wait a minute. I still have something to give you. She took out a talisman and said to So-min. This is the sealing spell that master gave me. Originally, I wanted to give it to you when you have completed your task. Namlin gave the talisman to So-min and advised. But just in case, this will be given to you first. So-min looked at the talisman and wondered. Sister Luke, do you know what this is used to seal? As he spoke, So-min thought to himself. Is this the surprising thing that Dai Kim Lotus 2 said? Namlin shook her head. When my master gave it to me, he didn't say anything more. But she said this was something very important to me. So-min closed his eyes and said. Actually, with my current strength, I have already been sealed by several masters. In the case of not removing the seal, I can only exert 1/8 of my power. Self. Hearing that, Namlin was extremely surprised. You are now in a state of great perfection. Are you only 1 out of 8? So-min nodded and explained. That's right. Since I was born, the masters have used many precious objects in heaven and earth to nurture me, plus the masters tempered internal strength. Therefore, my constitution is different from ordinary people. But they were worried that I would not be able to absorb such great destiny, so they sealed me away when I was young, waiting until I was an adult. Slowly released the seal. He pointed at the talisman and continued. Furthermore, I got one of the 8 methods to remove the seal from the master. While rescuing Big Brother Chi and his son, I solved it. In your hand is the second type. Namlin still held the talisman in her hand and wondered. If you can remove the second level seal, how much will your strength increase? So-min pondered. I'm not sure. Because since I started having memory, I haven't been able to escape the seal. If there's no problem, I will probably break through the true air realm and enter the sea air realm. Hearing that, Namlin was startled. Chi-Hai realm? Briefly speaking, martial Dao practice has a total of 6 levels. Reaching the perfect level of true energy is called a master. If you enter the atmosphere of the sea, you can become the ultimate martial artist, called the ultimate treasure. Lang Vong in the firepower above in legend can use his body to control the power of fire and water. It was no longer the power of mortals, but almost that of a fairy. Namlin looked shocked, thinking, if the 8-layer seal is completely lifted, So-min may really be able to enter the legendary second realm. Just what kind of genius is my little junior brother? Seeing senior sister Luke's shocked expression, So-min waved his hand and asked. What's wrong, senior sister Luke? Why are you so stupid? Namlin regained composure and replied. It's okay. Let's leave, So-min happily added. Okay, let's go. Then, sister, help me preserve this sealing spell first, and give it to me later. We can't violate the rules of the masters. Namlin happily accepted. Okay. As she walked, she thought to herself. Little junior brother is absolutely not an ordinary person. Maybe this time we can find the legendary martial snake. The two then boarded the plane to their destination. After a long time, the plane landed at that Ban airport. As soon as they arrived, Namlin introduced to So-min. This is that Ban City, Mu Province. It is the closest place to Nam Quang Thap Van Dai Sun. Pulling the suitcase away, Namlin said to So-min. I have already made an appointment with the company's guide. She will take us to Thap Van Dai Sun. Hearing that, So-min happily admired. Senior sister Luke arranged very carefully. Suddenly, So-min's eyes became sharp. He carefully observed everyone around him, surrounded by people hurriedly talking on the phone. Master, where are you? We are at the big door. Ah, yes. Seeing that So-min was different, Namlin wondered. What's wrong? So-min frowned and replied. I keep feeling like someone is following us. Is it a wrong feeling? Temporarily ignoring that problem, So-min and sister Namlin left the airport lobby. Suddenly, a car stopped right in front of them. A beautiful young girl stepped out and waved. Miss, we meet again. I'm glad you chose me again, Namlin happily replied. Long time no see. This trip is thanks to you. The girl's eyes suddenly lit up when she saw So-min. She quickly asked, "Who is this?" Nam-lin quickly replied, "My younger brother. His name is So-min." Hearing that, the other girl playfully said, "Sure enough, the older sister is beautiful and the younger brother is also very handsome. Mr. So is indeed talented." Nam-lin pulled So-min into the car and reminded, "Okay, stop being polite, get in the car. Let's take advantage of the time." After the three got into the car, the girl began to introduce herself. "That's right, Mr. So. I'm Tu Lin, you can call me Lin Lin. I'm everyone's personal guide in the car. This trip to Thap Van Dai Sun. Previously, I also went with Miss Nam once again." Seeing Tu Lin talking too much, Nam Lin sighed and reminded, "Okay, let's go." Tu Lin obeyed, did not say much more but happily replied, "Okay. Let's go." However, while walking on the street, Tu Lin still curiously asked, "Miss Nam, your last name is Nam, why is your younger brother's last name So?" Nam Lin boredly repeated again, "If you talk less, you're the best personal tour guide." Tu Lin quickly replied, "Sorry, it's just professional habit." They were so busy having fun that they didn't know that a few young people at the airport were closely watching their car and took out their phones to call. Someone called someone and said, "Young master, they have already departed." The so-called young master immediately replied, "Okay, follow them closely. If they lose track, you know what to do." The subordinate immediately obeyed. "Understood." As soon as he hung up the phone, a beautiful blonde girl next to him called out, "Young master." The girl hugged his shoulder and quickly reminded him, called, "Let's get to work quickly." Suddenly, this young master pushed the girl's hand away and shouted, "Get out!" He is the eldest young master Tran Nu-min, ranked 4th among the 10 great families of Zhangchao City. Tran Nu-min gritted his teeth, his body trembled with anger, and shouted, "So-min! You killed his entire Truong family. My Tran family will even deal with you." Meanwhile, the three's car was still traveling on the road to Thap Van Dai Sun. On the way, Tu Lin excitedly introduced, "Miss Nam, Mr. So, Thap Van Dai Sun is a unique tourist destination in our southern Kuang." The car rounded a curved road. Tu Lin continued to introduce, "The current exploitation rate is only within 5%. The area is largely covered with green trees, considered the green lungs of the earth. People come here to travel in the right way." Seeing Tu Lin as if she was about to say something more, So-min thought to herself, "She has a lot of words." Nam Lin, who was nearby, listened and wondered, "The rate of exploration is only 5%? Aren't many places uninhabited?" Tu Lin excitedly replied, "That's right. This place has lush vegetation and a natural ecosystem, but it cannot be compared to scenic spots. Accordingly, there are people who have seen tigers and pythons. But if you two have me leading the way, those dangerous areas will definitely be safe, avoid them all." Hearing that, So-min and Nam Lin silently signaled to each other. There are many unexplored areas like that, perhaps suitable for creatures like dancing snakes to live. Hope our luck is a little better. Above, Tu Lin looked puzzled. That's strange. Normally there are not many cars on this road. Why are there so many cars today? Looking at the 2 black cars following, Tu Lin said, "Unless everyone knows our Thap Van Dai Sun is beautiful." So-min also looked at the cars behind and thought to himself, "When we were at the airport, we always felt like someone was following us. Now there are so many cars, could it be?" At the same time, in a car that was following, someone said to the driver, "Brother Black, young master Ka is sitting in that car, don't lose sight of it." The driver was a gangster of that back city. Black Crane immediately smiled cunningly. "Lost? I want to help Minpia solve this game." Hearing that tone, the other guy looked surprised. "Huh!" Suddenly, the Black Crane's foot stepped hard on the accelerator. His car sped up, approaching So-min's car. He said to the guy sitting next to him, "That little boy, there's no need for young Master Min to personally take action." He comfortably smoked a cigarette and drove, smiling. "I'm enough." Then suddenly his car crashed hard into the left side of So-min's car. In the car, Tu Lin shouted in panic, "These people are hitting our car. I have to call the police." "Don't panic, I'm taking the phone." Contrary to Tu Lin, neither of the 2 people behind showed any signs of panic. Tu Lin was still pale, quickly dialed the phone and said, "What is the phone number to report to the police? Help! Why is this situation happening?" However, before finding the police phone number, the car continued to be forced close and collided again. Tu Lin looked even more panicked. "This is not good. They are pressing against our car. It's me. When did I offend this gangster force?" Black Crane's car rushed forward and blocked So-min's car. He got out of the car, put on a glove and shouted loudly, "Who is the turtle that offended young Master Tran? Come out here and fight." He and his subordinates surrounded and approached So-min's car. He ordered, "Brother, say hello." Obediently, the juniors immediately howled loudly to scare So-min and the others. In the car, Tu Lin shouted in panic, "It's me, this time it's me. They are the gangsters of that band city. I heard before that the headband is their symbol. The one with the beard on his face is their boss." So-min still calmly asked again, That bearded guy is the boss, Tu Lin panically replied. That's right. That kid, I heard that 4 to 5 people couldn't beat him. It's very scary. Hearing that, So-min calmly opened the door and said, Oh, that's a bit powerful, but I'm even more powerful than him. Then he jumped out of the car and instructed. Wait for me in the car. I'll go for a while and then come back. Seeing this, Tu Lin turned pale and shouted. Huh! Hey! There are so many of them. Unable to convince So-min, Tu Lin turned to persuade Nam Lin. Miss Nam, it looks like there are 2 to 3 dozen people in that group of gangsters. Your brother will suffer. Let's call the police. But Nam Lin sighed and reminded. Count to 10. Close your eyes and count to 10. After hearing this, Tu Lin became even more confused. Huh? What? Nam Lin, with a serious face, ordered. Count. So Tu Lin immediately covered his eyes and started counting. 1. When Tu Lin counted to 2, So-min started punching a few guys. By the count of 4, half of the gangsters were defeated. By the count of 6, almost all of the gangsters were down. So-min was outside, suddenly fighting left and right, continuously defeating the gangsters so quickly that they had no time to react. He excitedly shouted. Here we go! When Tu Lin counted to 7, So-min used both hands to knock down 2 men. At this time in the car, Tu Lin had counted to 10. She opened her eyes and said to Nam Lin. I'm done counting, Miss Nam. We are still. But when she fully opened her eyes, she was dumbfounded when she saw So-min in front of her, raising a stick to threaten the Black Crane. That guy was kneeling down asking So-min to spare his life. So-min frowned and asked him. Who sent you here? Why are you following us? The name Black Crane's face was swollen from being beaten, and he trembled and exclaimed. Tran, young Master Tran? It's just for us to follow you. We don't know anything else. But you have definitely offended. With him. Hearing that, So-min was surprised. Young Master Tran family? I don't remember having any enmity with anyone named Tran. The Black Crane quickly pointed his finger to the sky and swore. I don't know anything about anything else. Really? I can swear. So-min frowned and pressed the stick to his chin and said sternly. Aren't you going to tell the truth? Or should you try a stick? The named Black Crane was very scared. He cried out and begged. Don't. This time I hit you because I wanted to make a success of myself. I really don't know anything. Seeing that this guy didn't seem to be lying, So-min thought to himself, it's not the same as lying. Looks like he was just a robber. The last name is Tran? When did I touch him? Only then did So-min lower his voice. He pointed forward and ordered Black Crane. Go away! The Black Crane guy was just waiting, then quickly ran away. Thank you, yes. We'll get out of here right now. However, just as he got to the car door, So-min called out. Wait a minute! This made the Black Crane startled and scared, not understanding what was going on. He then heard So-min's order and ran out in front of Tu Lin's car and smiled wryly. This is for you to repair your car and pay some compensation. He bowed his head, held out a stack of money towards Tu Lin and said, You must accept it. Tu Lin was still scared, so she denied it and pushed. This car is okay. I can fix it myself, Nam Lin behind him sternly reminded. Take it. That's what he has to pay for. Hearing that, Tu Lin snatched the stack of money and happily replied. Okay then. So-min then got into the car and shouted at Black Crane. Get out! He was scared and quickly bowed his head. Yes. As for Tu Lin, she sat comfortably counting money. Her eyes lit up, 1 sheet, 2 sheets, 3 sheets, so comfortable. I thought I would get robbed of my money, but I didn't expect to earn it, So-min urged. Can the car still start? You can start now. Tu Lin turned around and signaled. It can still be started. This car of mine can be used. Then she quickly drove away and said. Let's go. It's safe. That's right, Miss Nam. Where is your younger brother from? Tu Lin was driving in the car while talking endlessly. Those gangsters were all defeated so easily. It's not normal, Nam Lin solemnly replied. Is that you? He is the king of gangsters in Zhangchao. Everyone in the world is called the Black Dragon King. Hearing this sentence from Nam Lin, So-min was startled. As for Tu Lin, she cried out in panic. Black Dragon King? So-min coughed a few times and cleared his throat to call his sister, but Nam Lin pretended not to hear. Tu Lin trembled and sweated and said, I didn't hear anything. I've never seen anything today. I'm just an ordinary local tour guide. So-min sighed and reminded. Senior sister Luke scared her. Nam Lin replied despondently. Only then will she shut up. So-min suddenly became serious and said, It's fair to say. But just now I also knew a little information. This sneak attack, the mastermind behind it was a man named Tran. Nam Lin immediately turned curiously. Is your surname Tran? So-min immediately replied. I don't know. But it's very likely that they came aiming for me. Nam Lin immediately pondered. The last name is Tran? The target is me. So there can only be one possibility. She thought about the gangsters in Zhangchao and said, That is the Tran family. ranked 4th among the 10 great families in Zhangchao. Hearing that, So-min felt confused. But I don't remember when I made enemies with them. Nam Lin immediately explained. The mother of the Tran family is the biological sister of the head of the Truong family. Furthermore, if an unexpected person had not appeared, the Truong family and the Tran family would have joined forces to take over the top 3 position of Zhangchao. Nam Lin sternly warned. It was you who broke their hope. So-min looked puzzled. So it's this. But I still have a question. Why didn't the Tran family come to help when the Truong family encountered something? Nam Lin smiled and explained. I also underestimate them too much. In their eyes, I am just a wild person. At most, I only have 7 senior sisters' help, let alone HSL in their eyes. It's nothing. They missed the fact that the Wu family would help me, and also missed my existence. Thinking about the Wu family, Nam Lin continued, by the time the Tran family reacted, the Wu family would have already dealt with the Truong family. Anyway, Zhangchao's top 3 and 4th place are only 1 step away. That is the difference between heaven and earth. Looking at her reflection in the car window, Nam Lin sighed. It seems that our next visit to Thap Van Dai Sun will not be so easy. So-min did not show any concern at all. He smiled and reassured. It's okay. Fight back with your hands blocked with earth. Great master once taught me that principle. Suddenly, the car stopped. They arrived at a large mansion. It is Nam Quang Natural Resort Villa. Tu Lin trembled in fear and announced. Lord Black Dragon King, we have arrived at the first location. You can get out of the car to get dressed and go to the reception desk to submit your ID to get a room card. So-min turned pale when he heard Tu Lin call him Lord Black Dragon. Nam Lin, sitting next to him, secretly laughed. Get out of the car. After that, they rested in the villa until dark. Nam Lin is sitting alone in the practice room. She thought to herself. Last time, after little junior brother gave me the challenge to practice the Dantian, I no longer had the strength to practice. Let's try it. Nam Lin then closed his eyes and took a deep breath. Her Dantian immediately emitted a golden aura surrounding her body. Suddenly, Nam Lin's face became panicked. She painfully coughed up fresh blood. Lying down on the ground, Nam Lin silently thought to herself, no way. There is absolutely no way to transport true energy to nourish the Dantian, and the current state is even more serious than before. It's getting increasingly late outside. The aura that Nam Lin had just trained escaped from her and flew towards someone's hand. That was the evil monk who poisoned Nam Lin before. He smiled cunningly. Forcibly transport true energy? His face was full of intrigue, wondering. Little nun, are you really not afraid of death? Sitting in front of him, young Master Tran Nu Min turned around and smiled cunningly. Master Kyung Gwyn, whether or not my Tran family can take revenge successfully depends on you. Master Kyung Gwyn closed his eyes and smiled proudly. Amitabha Buddha. This is natural. Eliminating demons and demons is what we should do. Having said that, his heart was filled with a sinister plot. He did not expect that another descendant of the Seven Saints sect would appear. There's really no need to waste your effort. If he could single-handedly destroy the 2 descendants of the Seven Saints sect, then that stupid ant would definitely die in anger. Ha! Still ahead, Tran Nu Min was also calculating in his heart. That name So-min had extraordinary strength. If there was only Master Kyung Gwyn alone, I'm afraid it still wouldn't be reassuring enough. I don't know if the helper Dad was looking for has arrived or not. Meanwhile, at the Tran family's manor, the head of the Tran family, Tran Tianheng, is welcoming someone. He smiled friendlily. Your arrival, sir, really makes this cold place bright. The person he welcomed was a master of the Tian Not Sword sect named Kuk Duong. Kuk Duong drank tea and replied. My younger brother died in Zhangchao, I had to come. But then he frowned and added. This time I didn't come to kill for no reason, but to investigate the truth of her death. Tran Tianheng laughed loudly. Ha ha! Kuk Truong Man, good and evil are divided. Tran is admired. He then showed a few photos and said. I have collected all the clues related to Master Kuk Am. You can take a look. Kuk Duong looked at the photo of his brother's death and trembled with anger. Meanwhile, Tran Tianheng still teased. I feel that no matter how big the feud is, no matter how much it is done, doing it to this extent is truly unacceptable. Kuk Duong frowned, trying to hide his anger. Kuk Am younger brother. Tran Tianheng on the opposite side continued to say. The person who took this photo said that Master Kuk Am was attacked by someone while he was still alive. He died a long time later. You can see how much torture he had to endure. Hearing that, Kuk Duong's anger erupted. He stood up, slammed the table and shouted. Raping people is too much. Looking at Kuk Duong's body trembling with anger, Tran Tianheng calmly said. Mr. Kuk Duong, we have investigated clearly. It is true that So-min attacked your younger brother. This time I also take revenge. Had a thorough plan. Even outside Zhangchao city, no one knew. Having finished speaking, he seriously suggested. Please cooperate with the Tran family to destroy So-min. Kuk Duong clenched his fists with determination. Okay. I'll stay here and swear forever. Seeing that everything seemed to go according to plan, Tran Tianheng smiled proudly and thought, this time, even if So Min had 3 heads and 6 arms, he would definitely die without a place to live. Looking at Kuk Duong in front of him, the plot in his heart became clearer. Determined to eliminate So Min, the remaining fighting power of the Wu family was just a few rolls that could not create any more storms. Thinking of this, Tran Tianheng gave a calculating smile, thinking, at that time, I will not only take everything from the Truong family, but can also swallow the entire Wu family. While the enemy was making such calculations, So Min and Nam Lin were still comfortably enjoying the food. So Min chewed greedily and said, these things are not the same as the food in Zhang Chao. It's delicious. Seeing his junior brother eating so deliciously, Nam Lin confusedly said, it's okay if you like it. Suddenly So Min's face turned red. He gently placed his hand and touched Nam Lin's wrist. Nam Lin said confusedly, no, that's not true. Actually, feeling that Nam Lin's health was different, So Min asked, senior sister Luke lacks blood and vitality. Could it be that relatives have arrived? Suddenly, So Min was startled and pulled his hand away from Nam Lin's hand as if he had sensed something. He was surprised and asked his senior sister, senior sister Luke, are you moving your dantian again? Seeing Nam Lin's confused expression, So Min quickly reminded, if you do that you will kill yourself. Nam Lin confusedly defended, didn't you say that my dantian has been completely destroyed? There is still 2 years left? So Min stood up and quickly explained, what I'm talking about is that in a situation where it's impossible to stimulate the dantian and practice forcefully, if forced many times, senior sister Luke will only have half a year at most. Moreover, it is very likely that not only will the dantian be completely destroyed, the power will be lost, but life will also be in danger. Hearing that, Nam Lin looked shocked. What? Only half a year? Immediately So Min stood up and suggested, we must quickly set out to find Wu Exe. As long as we find a cure, everything has a chance to change. Nam Lin nodded in agreement. Okay. The two immediately went out and met Tu Lin. Tu Lin waved her hand to signal. Here, Miss Nam. Lord Black Dragon King. When everyone around heard the name Black Dragon King, they were startled and scared. Black Dragon King? People from gangsters? Doesn't this young person look like a bad person? So Min got in the car and looked annoyed and reminded Tu Lin. Don't call me nicknames next time. Tu Lin replied in fear. Okay. Tu Lin started driving and introduced. Today we are going to the famous tourist destination at Thap Van Dai Sun, Luke Tui Ka area. That place is... Nam Lin immediately interrupted. We're not going to the police station. Go to the forest in the mountains and find a place with many snakes. Hearing that, Tu Lin looked tense. You two want to look for snakes? Thap Van Dai Sun has not been explored in this area. There are many poisonous snakes. If you stay, I'm afraid it will be very dangerous. Venomous snakes world's best. Our Thap Van Dai Sun also has some of those types. So Min immediately replied. We just want to find the most poisonous snake. If you can lead the way then go. If you can't then wait by our side. Take us to the place where we enter Thap Van Dai Mountain without anyone else. Okay. Tu Lin immediately responded excitedly. Okay. I will definitely meet all your requests. If you two want to find poisonous snakes, I am the most famous Delu Tu in this Thap Van Dai Mountain. You two seem to have found the right person, but Tu Lin also made another suggestion. But if you want to go there, you have to pay more money. Nam Lin immediately agreed. Don't worry, the job is successful. I will pay you 5 times more for the guide fee. Tu Lin happily agreed. Okay, so the car entered Thap Van Dai Sun. They did not know that someone had secretly followed them and called to inform Tran Nu Min. Hello? Young master. They went into the mountains. On the other end of the line, Tran Nu Min ordered, follow them closely. Notify the surrounding forces, wait for them to reach an uninhabited place, and begin the plan. Immediately their car followed So Min's car. On this side, Tran Nu Min smiled full of intrigue. So Min, I have prepared a huge trap, just waiting for you to jump in. He then loudly ordered his subordinates. Are you all ready? The subordinates loudly said in unison. It's ready, young master. Tran Nu Min proudly started with old master Kyung Gwin and his subordinates to hunt So Min. The people around saw